Welcome to our video. Today we're here to share the current situation in our market and what we expect to see in the future. I'd like to introduce the team that's here. We have Tony Mazzella, President and CEO of Mazzella Companies. Mazzella Company is in the lifting, rigging, and crane business and is the parent company for Sheffield Metals and NewTek Machinery. Also joining us is Adam Mazzella. He is responsible for Sheffield Metals, which provides materials for the roofing wall panel industry. And at NewTek Machinery, we provide portable roll forming systems for metal roofs, walls, and seamless gutters. So stay tuned, a lot of information to share with you.
So I think everybody is kind of tasked with the same challenge in all of the markets, regardless of the business at Mazzella Companies. Supply shortages, allocations by certain vendors that, you're really limited in your ability to consume too much product or really grow way above and beyond where you may have been, targeting prior to, the pandemic.
Yeah, the economy has grown so fast that the pipelines just weren't filled. Inventories were low, and it's become a challenge to meet the day-to-day demands, let alone fill the pipeline of inventory that most manufacturing businesses need.
And for NewTek Machinery, we're facing the same issues the whole country is. One of those is the availability of scarce resources in the technical areas. So we're managing that through that, as well as the almost continual cost increases.
I think we've been fortunate in all our businesses that we reacted early and had the wherewithal to respond. And while things aren't perfect, I think we're in much better situation than many of our competitors. So we feel pretty good about that. We also feel good about our relationships with our suppliers and being key to them. We believe that we get treatment that allows for getting the maximum supply that makes sense for them at this time.
One of the big things that we really had to be cognizant of, and this was real early on, we're talking August, September of 2020, was we were put onto allocation from a lot of the steel mills and a lot of our suppliers, and we had to make sure that we took care of the customers that have really helped us build our business to where we are today. So we really want to be customer focused and sensitive to the existing customer needs, existing customer demands. We're being very thoughtful on how we take on new business and trying to make sure we're not going to impact existing customers.
Yeah, at NewTek Machinery, we're providing production equipment to our customers in the form of a portable roll forming machine. We're also realizing the recovery in the economy. Being construction is an essential business, we've had a strong demand for our products. What we're seeing right now, as the economy comes back to life, is our customers needing to invest in production equipment, our portable roll forming equipment. And so we're seeing a lot of demand, which has extended lead times. And so the advice to our customers is if you foresee that you're going to need a portable roll forming system in 2022, now would be the best time to order it for two reasons. One is to protect future cost increases, and two, to make certain that we can deliver you the system you need when you need it.
We're currently in typical supply and demand and challenges, and most of the businesses we're in, steel seems to be at the heart of everything, and just the lack of available steel from almost virtually any type of metal, whether it's steel, aluminum, they're all in very similar situations where the supply is limited and the inventories are low seemingly everywhere.
One of the big things that people really got to keep in mind is 30 to 40% of the economy just stopped And, it stopped for 3, 4, 5 months, and then it literally came back on at about a 30-40% clip over and above normal. A lot of people trying to play catch up. And I think what we're really going to see over the next 5 years in the U.S. is people bringing a lot of that industrial supply, a lot of that, what they typically relied on externally for, back to the United States. And that's going to drive a lot of the industrial demand. That's already driving a lot of the industrial demand to bring a lot of the manufacturing back here to minimize supply chain disruptions like we've seen for the long-term purpose for a lot of the United States manufacturing needs.
The other thing that we've seen almost as prevalent as the shortage of material is we're getting a lot of replies from our suppliers that there's a shortage of labor available. And with that shortage of labor, even if they had the raw material to produce, some of the labor that's needed to produce it just isn't available. Certainly not the skilled labor, the trained labor. And it's taking a long time to make that happen.
And one of the unexpected trends from the things that were just mentioned is Nutec's customers are feeling the need to take control of their own means of production, which is driving a demand for our portable roll forming systems. A little bit unexpected, but welcomed.
On the Sheffield side, we've seen a real increase in demand, particularly on the residential re-roofing side of the business. If you look at our product mix, you're typically associating, 40-inch wide master coils with predominantly residential roofing. Well, a lot of people have been stuck at home. I'd say quick show of hands, if you've done a residential improvement project at your house over the last year, it's 60, 70, 80+% of almost everybody. Everyone has done something. So that's translated into a lot of demand for residential roofing, whether you're just doing an accent porch or just doing your entire roof. That's been a huge uptick. I think people are going to continue to invest in home, at least for the foreseeable future, as well as we're seeing an uptick in demand on the industrial side. So the commercial side, the entertainment side, that's really tapered off, really in conjunction with everything that is associated with the pandemic.
An example is, we on our crane manufacturing side, we budgeted to be back to 19 level, and literally we've already booked our 19 level going in half of the year. So, that concept of people investing back in the U.S. into capital side is truly happening, and it is forcing lead times out a little longer.
What's really saying is we're seeing the recovery across all segments: industrial, construction,
right,
et cetera.
Yeah, it's recovering. It's clearly recovering everywhere.
Yeah,
that's
good news.
In the many markets we're in the lifting side, beyond the construction, I can't think of a market right now that you would call weak. Every one of them has some significant strength to it and activity.
We've seen that in Canada, we've seen that in the U.S., and the only straggler for us is Europe. They really were shut down, and so that's a different market.
Globally, we have an impact as far as importing steel and aluminum. It's historically been a smaller portion of the business, and because of Section 232, it's actually gotten smaller. But the portion of the business that we still do bring in, we're seeing longer lead times. We're hearing about containers stuck in port or on ships that are in port. So we're just trying to pass that on down the line. Hey, we are anticipating May. It's now June. It's actually going to be closer to July, and I think a lot of people have been really understanding of these longer lead times, of these shortages, and I think everyone just wants to make sure that they have their place in line.
And all that's driving significant increase in pricing, the actual raw materials we're buying, but the whole transportation piece has just gone wild, really. If it's products from overseas, the container issue, if it's just local transportation, just getting someone to transport it and the price to transport it, in a lot of cases, has actually doubled. So I believe all across Mazzella companies, we really took when we realized what was going on, we really took a pretty aggressive approach to trying to fill our pipeline and inventory. And unlike other times, we were fairly confident that inventories were low everywhere, and that building an inventory was an important task. 2 years ago, we were shrinking our inventories, and we took an aggressive approach. And with that in mind, we currently actually became pretty active at the end of last year, expecting that there was going to be some challenges, not only getting material, but also the prices going up rapidly, which they have.
And one thing we've done as a team is to communicate with our customers on a regular basis to keep you in the loop of the current situation and what we're doing and moving it forward for us together.
Yeah, we're not sweeping anything under the rug.
No.
We're very vocal about what's going on. We're publishing price increase letters. We're trying to honor 30-day minimums on these increases. We know they're sudden jolts and pretty significant. That's really what we're seeing. We're trying to over communicate and help prepare customers to make sure that they don't get burned as they pass that material and manufacture it downstream.
Most people in the workforce have never been through significant inflation. It goes back to the 70s and 80s when inflation occurred in any significant way, and all the things are ripe for that to happen again. And it's very unusual times, and at the same time, I guess no one should panic, but I think at the same time understand that maybe go back and study some history to see what's happened. I remember in 1981 we started building a new building for the rigging operations in Cleveland, and by the time we finished building the building for commercial rates, interest was at 21%, which obviously you never would have built a building if you started it when knowing that was going to happen. Home mortgages were in the 14-15% area, and so not the idea that there's a panic, but inflation can be a real thing that we're going to have to deal with as a country and as a workforce.
We first think about our own companies, but when we look at the supply chain, they may not have the labor to produce the volume that they need to produce, and the end result is, as their customers, they have longer lead times, and then that affects our ability to produce the products when we'd like to produce them. And that's one of the reasons we've, as Mazzella companies, have been building up our inventory and aggressively managing our supply chain.
So if you think about it, when the pandemic hit a little over a year ago, many companies got smaller. And in the time of getting smaller, they had to ramp back up very quickly, or try to ramp up very quickly come, say, 6 months ago. And the labor force just wasn't there, or certainly the trained labor force. So that occurred oftentimes because it was easier for people to stay at home. And also just, when you bring new people on, it may take several months to train them to operate a piece of equipment or in that. So the production takes a while to ramp up, and we're definitely seeing that from our suppliers. Yeah, we barely know a company that isn't looking for people, and that's our challenge. And one of our challenges as a company is to be a place people want to work. Mm-hmm. And we work hard to try to make it happen that way. One of the things I look at related to, people say, is there going to be a bubble in that, like there was in 2008, and the concern, the one big difference, and I'm not predicting there won't be a bubble, but I'd say less likely to have a bubble than 2008 was, back in 2008, inventories were flush. Everybody had a lot of inventory. So when things changed, people had lots of inventory to work off of, and now if things change, people still don't have the inventory yet. So I don't think there's going to be quite that cliff that if things change, like there was a bubble burst in '08. So I'm a little more confident in if we can get supply right now, we ought to buy it.
And kind of the flip side of that is, if you can't get the inventory, where are you going to get it? So even if you say, hey, I want to turn on a foreign source, it's going to take at best 3, 4, 5, 6 months to get that into your supply chain. So even if there is a bubble and they say, hey, we're going to flood the market with some real inexpensive steel or real inexpensive aluminum, it's still going to take time for that to kind of come down. So say a bubble burst, it's going to be more gradual than it was 2008, 2009 timeframe.
Yeah, and some of the economic drivers that we've spoken about was shortage of labor, which then increase in the cost of labor. Supply of material, which you just mentioned again. I don't see pricing for our material and our labor going down significantly. In fact, I see it maintaining, if not rising, for the next period of time.
I think if you look at all of the businesses moving forward, we look at the businesses kind of in chunks of time in the future. So, we're not going to do anything rash. I think the idea is how can we, keep our people employed and busy, gainfully employed and busy? How can we maintain our customers and keep them in a place where they can grow their business and be prosperous? So we're not going to look at doing anything really knee-jerk that's going to change our approach and how we take care of our customers.
Your business and our business before the pandemic was an essential business. It was an essential business during the pandemic, and it'll continue to be an essential business. So what that means for you and for us is that the strong companies like yours and ours will adapt and will continue to grow and prosper together.
Obviously, nobody can predict the future, but just us paying attention, maintaining our connection with our customers is really key to all of us being successful going forward.
Well, I'd like to thank all of you for viewing our video today. We are here to support the investment in your business going forward. Please give us a call and we'll work a plan together. And big thank you to Tony and for Adam for sharing the information with you today.